All right, everybody, welcome back to Unscripted from my studios in Hilliard, Ohio. Speaking of Hilliard, Ohio, got a special guest today. Long overdue, man, long overdue. But Cory, can you introduce yourself and we'll go from there?
Sure. My name is Cory Dicarro. I have been living in Hilliard since, 1999 after graduating from Ohio State, and just stuck around these parts, but originally from Hiram, Ohio, which is up near Cleveland, near that 216 hat you got on, bro.
Absolutely. You got to always rep, right? So, but
Yes.
you're a husband and a father and everything else too, right?
Yes. Just past 20 years of marriage with my wife, Kelly.
Congratulations.
So which is wonderful. Two boys, 17 and 15, and this is our first week of uh, driving. So let them loose. They're out in their own car, running around town. So
How hard was that when they drove away the first time?
oh, um, it was hard. It was hard. I had been driving them to school in every morning since sixth grade.
Wow.
And so watching them pull out of the driveway was it was a little more emotional than I thought.
Yeah.
Um, and then I realized how little control I have over things.
Right.
So like, hey, there they go. I hope they come back later.
That's right. Yeah, I think the great Kenny Chesney once said, "There goes my life." Like,
Yeah.
you know, that plays in the back of your head as they drive off for the first time, and really every time. But anyway, so the first time you and I met, that was back in our softball days, man. We were angry young men out there just getting it done on the weekends.
Yes.
And I roll up to Berliner Park for some BP practice. I don't know if you remember this, but it's the first time I've ever met you. And so I roll up, I get out of the car, and this guy comes over, man. He's just full of energy and just welcoming. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. I don't even remember what team we were playing for. It might have been Northwest. I really don't remember. You might remember. But
Yeah.
anyway, man, ever since then, just just appreciate you, love you. So yeah, we'll get into your story a little bit, but yeah, that was the first time I ever met you. Do you remember that?
I I don't remember the first time, but I remember playing ball with you,
Yeah.
and I always remember thinking I might be a little too intense for this church league team here. They're gonna have to go find another guy, but man, we had some good memories, some good times, and that was when our bodies worked the right way.
That's right. Yeah, that was about 100 pounds ago. Rob Mulvaney, somewhere, if he's listening, is probably smiling, thinking back to those
Yes.
dynasty teams at Northwest that he put together. So,
Yes.
anyway, we didn't get on to talk softball, but just a vivid memory I have of you. So, you, let's start with your story, because your story did not start in church. You did not, right? And so I'll let you tell
Yeah.
your own story, but you didn't start to be a pastor. So I'll let you
Right.
just kind of pick up your story and go from there.
Sure. Gosh. Man, I'll fast forward through the beginning of it. Like, grew up in a non-Christian home. Um, For me, it was eighth grade. I had a buddy that I was on the wrestling team with, took me to a sports camp up on Lake Erie, and I was totally ignorant that it was a Christian sports camp. And so I got there and I was like, oh man, what's all this Bible stuff? I don't know what I'm doing. And but it was on a Wednesday night at that camp. The pastor got up and man, he shared the gospel, shared about Jesus, shared about our sin, and I was squirming.
Mm.
And I was like, man, I don't know what's going on. I don't have all the answers, but at my core, I believe what this guy is saying is true. And on that Wednesday night, I walked forward and gave my life to Jesus. First one in my home to do that. My parents, my mom was like, "Oh, that's cool. You'll be a good little boy now." My dad thought I was crazy. He actually told me, he goes, "You'll be over this in 2 weeks. Don't worry
Oh,
about it."
wow.
And so eventually left Hiram off to Ohio State. And had a pretty good freshman year, but then like many, wrong crowd. Um, and spent the next several years, including my fifth year victory lap, kind of living pretty crazy and wild. Um, but graduated Ohio State with a gentleman pouring into me, knowing that I guess the best way to put it, I wasn't really following after Jesus like I should, and but he just loved on me, spoke grace, spoke truth, and I actually went to work for the company that he was at. And that was my first job in the secular world. I was just a data entry guy.
Mm-hmm.
Spent about a year there before moving to another company, and worked in the business world for 10, 12 years.
Right.
But it was in the midst of that, found Northwest Bible Church, and started volunteering at church. And for me, I classify myself as I was a classic undecided kid. Undecided going into college, undecided going through college, undecided coming out of college, and serving at Northwest. And all of a sudden I was like, whoa, I kind of like this ministry thing. I don't know what to do with it though. I've got no more money left. Ohio State's got all of it. And I don't think I can go back to seminary or anything. And a guy you and I know and love, Pastor Tom Ladd, man, just really,
Yeah.
he started to pour into me. We met in the evenings and walked through scripture, and I asked thousands of questions of him, of like, so do you full-time ministry guys, like, do you work every day, like all day, and they pay you for it? And what do you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
Um, and he really took me under his wing. And it was while working in the business world, and during that time, I thought maybe I'm being called into full-time ministry. And Pastor Tom really helped me work through that. And then some of the church leadership, Pastor Ken Harrell, we got to a point where it was like, do you see this calling on my life? Is this craziness,
Yeah.
or do you see something there? And they agreed, they saw something there. And um, gosh, they just kind of took me under their wing. But there was a pivotal moment where I was sitting down with my wife Kelly early on in our marriage, and said, "Hey, honey, I think I'm called into full-time ministry, but I can't do this without you.
Mm.
I can't. This has got to be a team effort thing. If I'm not going unless you're going with me." And we sat on our couch, having this discussion one night, shed some great tears, knowing that we were putting our yes on the table
Mm.
and telling God, "Hey, wherever you take us, whenever you take us, whatever you want to do with us, our answer is yes."
Mm.
And it was, I don't know, it was in that moment. It was kind of a catalyst, maybe pivotal moment for us, that we were just ready to go. And not sure, knowing we might just leave all of our family in Ohio behind, and God could take us across the world. And um, at that time, I was working for Cardinal Health as a project manager, and I was moving up the corporate ladder. The one thing I didn't want to do,
Yeah.
um, I just knew it was going to take more time away from me and my family. And man, there was a moment driving home from work one day where I got promoted, and I felt I was way in over my head. And I was driving home and going, Lord, I don't know what to do with this. I think I'm over my head, in my position. Um, and literally that night, Pastor Ken Harrell called and said, "Hey, why don't you swing by the house?" And I
Mm.
was like, "Sure." I had been volunteering, leading young adults and stuff, so I figured I'm just gonna get some marching orders for the week or for the month. And he said, "Hey, got a question for you. I
Mm.
think the Lord's opened up a door. Would you like to come on staff as our small groups director?" And I don't think he even finished the sentence. Yes came flying out of my mouth. And um, man, that's kind of how I got into full-time ministry. And for me, it was all I knew was I was on the team. I was like, I'm the water boy. This is the greatest thing
That's
ever.
right. Just put me on the roster.
Yes. And I never had any aspirations other than, like, man, I'm on the team. And so that's where it all kind of started.
And then I just watched the trajectory of your time in ministry. And I want to pause really quick and say that for those listening that are not in ministry, air
Mhm.
quotes, in ministry, because look, I believe I'm in ministry. I'm just not,
Yeah.
I don't work for a church. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
you're in ministry wherever you are, but there are those that are called to our local churches, and they hold positions and those type things. But I will say, I had a cup of coffee in ministry and truly working for a church. And it was one of the hardest things for a family. My kids were young. Yours were young when you accepted
Yeah.
this calling and this position. It's not easy. The
No.
hours are not easy, because at the end of the day, you're never off.
Right.
Right? When you're in
Right.
ministry, you're always on. Your phone is always on, because there's someone, unfortunately, may go to the hospital, or whatever it might be. Somebody needs your counseling. Somebody
Mm.
needs wisdom. You talked about Tom Ladd. Somebody's got to sit with, just like you did with Tom Ladd, for example. So you're never off. And so it is, I want people to understand, if you've never been in ministry with a church, it's a very difficult road, and it is a calling, and it's not always the highest paid job. You know what I mean? You really do it with your heart wide open. And so from that, what I wanted to go back to is I watched, so you said small groups. I know
Mm-hmm.
when my kids were teens,
Yeah.
you were their youth pastor. And we
Yeah.
didn't even attend we didn't attend Northwest, but we still gave a tithe to Northwest because we felt like our kids were being poured into, and they did not want to leave the teen group at Northwest. They loved the teen group. And so, you know, we kind of mixed and matched a little bit, a little buffet church style, but,
Yeah.
but they loved you, and you poured into their lives at a critical time. And so I want to know, I want to speak for Heather as well and just say thank you. For leaving fingerprints all over them and their lives and their faith, because they're who they are today because of the teen group that they were a part of, and your leadership and others that followed you. But primarily you were really the key pivotal point there. So thank you, man.
You're welcome. I'm humbled by that, man. It was privilege. It was a privilege and an honor.
Yeah. So then teen group to what was next? Because you've had some transit. There's been a lot of transition, and Northwest has gone through transition, not just staffing wise, but they've done an overhaul. The church looks completely different than it did back in the day with the curtains and the chandeliers, you know, and it was beautiful at the time, but they've you know, made the shift and changes that they have to make internally, both structurally and with staffing and things like that. So where does it stand today? Because I know you took some time away and then came back. And so where does it stand today?
Yeah. Gosh, I think it stands poised and ready for a bright future. It's pretty, you know, you referenced it, like, I think a year and a half in as small groups director, I got called in and said, "Hey, leadership thinks you're our next youth pastor."
Yeah.
And in my stellar interview skills, I responded with, "You do?" And so that kicked off that season, which was wonderful, getting to know your kids. And I mean, I'd already known you. It was just a blessing. And some of the golden years of ministry were in youth ministry. From there to executive pastor for several years.
Right.
And then a couple years ago, and we can get into this if you want to or not, like, left, God stirred in us, left, and we actually went and planted a church and thought, hey, this is it forever. And in God's crazy way has brought us right back to Northwest. And so it's been, I share a little bit about that because you asked, hey, where does it stand today? I've been able to see 20 years at Northwest going and experiencing planting a church and coming back. And I can honestly say, God's done some amazing things here. He's brought together an awesome team. I would describe it as wonderful clarity, wonderful vision, wonderful mission in moving forward. And for a time such as this, brother, I mean, you know, and we are going through that transition between a senior pastor that's getting ready to step away, that, man, almost 3 decades. And it's a healthy transition. It's a good one. And a new lead pastor that's poised and ready to go. And so Jan 1's going to be, okay, the gates are open, time to run.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I want to go back to, you just mentioned it, and this might be hard. I might get choked up during this part. I don't know. I'll try real hard not to. But, you know, Pastor Harold is transitioning out of a position he's been in. Cory, how long? How long has he been senior pastor?
Almost 33 years.
33 years in ministry. Can you, I mean,
here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Just an incredible time. He's led Northwest from being in little, I think they were even a school for a little time, a Hilliard school for a while. They used to be on that little brick building in Old Hilliard, as they call it, across from Old Bag of Nails. You know, and now to those 20 acres, I think he calls them, right? Is that what he calls it? Is it the
22 beautiful acres?
There you go. 22 beautiful acres, man. He's been in that leadership role for a long time, and he's seen a lot of change in the church, from hymnals in the back of the pews to, and these are simple things, but the church itself has grown, it's expanded, it's changed. Church now has become something different because we have people that are different and they consume things different. Now it's content, for example. So he's been at the wheel and in leadership of that transition. And you've been there now, you said 20 years, right? So
Yeah.
so you've been there as well and had eyes on that, including, launching a church as well. You've been in this transitional shift, but there's a key point I want to make, and that is his son-in-law. I believe y'all have a very special relationship, and
We do.
Is probably his son-in-law today because of an interaction with you. Am I speaking out of school, or is that correct?
No, you're correct. And Bob Hart is one of my best friends. And um, early on, one of the first companies I worked for downtown, I wouldn't even name it because I got bought out 7 different times. Um, but we worked together and we became fast friends. We were both into sports, and our company did a lot of the YMCA corporate challenge stuff. And so, if there were sports to be played, I was going to be there. We became fast friends. I would always have my Bible on my desk, and he would come over and be like, "Why's your Bible on your desk?" I'm like, "Well, because I read it." It's like, "You actually read that thing?" And so
Like a
I was
hotel
like,
room or anything.
"Yes, yeah, it's not in the drawer. It's actually on my desk, man." And so, um, we would we would have, the best way I would describe it, we would have 1 to 2 sentence conversations about faith or about the Bible or about Jesus, and that's about as far as he would allow it to go. And and so I was concerned with where he was going to spend eternity,
Yeah.
and we talked for years. I shared with him about my faith and about Jesus. I'm probably for 5+ years, and my wife and I, once we got married, we had a small group in our little 1-bedroom apartment,
Yep.
and where I think 3 or 4 of us were meeting. Uh, Bob actually lived in the same apartment complex,
Mm.
and I would invite him to our group, and he knew every Tuesday our group would meet, and so every Tuesday he made sure he was super busy, and so he could always say no.
It's like
And
I gotta do laundry, I gotta wash my
yes,
hair,
I got
whatever it
this
may be.
thing. Um, and I would remember we would have conversations, we would work out, and I mean, I think the coolest thing was is I had a buddy. We were having group one night at our place, and I had a buddy that knew of Bob, and he said, "Hey man, is Bob ever gonna come?" And I was like, "I don't think so." And I remember I told God that night, I'm like, "Hey, I'm just gonna lay off. I don't want to be that pushy Christian. I don't want to shove anything down, anybody's throat or in their face." And the very next day at work, Bob and I are having lunch, and he was like, "Hey man, I know I've never come, but don't stop asking.
Mm.
I'll be there someday." And I was like, wow, like I was just ready to give up. And he gave me permission to keep going.
Yeah.
And literally the next week, we're having group again. And I had a buddy in the group that was like, "You know what? Let's pray for Bob right now."
Mm.
We prayed, literally said amen. My phone rang, and it was Bob. He forgot it was Tuesday, bro. He
Oh no.
forgot it was Tuesday. And he's like, "Man, I'm bored. What are you doing?" And I was like, "Funny you should ask."
That's right.
And so he was like, "All right, I'll come over." And he gave me this laundry list. He was like, "Don't make me open a Bible. Don't make me talk. Don't make me pray. Don't ask me any questions." And I was like, "Cool." He came down, and we were doing a study in the New Testament, I think on the parables, and we read the first section of study, and the first person to talk, Bob, right? He's like, "Hey
Mhm.
man, is this like a different John than the other John? And what John is it?" And I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, you're breaking the rules, man. You're not supposed to be talking or doing anything. This is the contract we wrote up, right?"
That's right.
And so um that kind of opened up further conversation. But I remember talking with him one night, and I said, "Hey, I want to show you something." I said, "It's not biblically accurate to the T," but I said, "Would you watch The Passion of the Christ with me?" And that was kind of when all
Mm.
that was big. And I said,
Yeah.
I think you just need to see what Jesus did for you on the cross."
Mm.
And so he came. We watched the movie, and he just got up and he walked right out of our house or
Mm,
out of our apartment. And he would tell you, hey, that was that on his way home. That was the night he was like, I made a decision for Jesus.
wow.
I think he wound up coming to church the next week and gave the official, I'm going to raise my hand and say I'm in.
Yeah.
But that Bob, a couple years later, winds up dating the pastor's daughter. And I'm like,
Hmm.
dude, what are you doing? You're crazy.
That's a whole nother level.
It is. I'm like, do you even know what you're in for? He's like, no. And I'm like, maybe that's the best thing. You don't even know what you're in for. But
Yeah.
wound up marrying Pastor Harold's daughter. And man, yeah, Bob's one of my best friends this day. Now a deacon
Yeah.
at our church,
How
and
about that?
just a man of God. So yeah, love that guy.
And if I remember right, he wasn't the only one. I think you brought several guys. I mean, it was like all your coworkers were starting to come in. And again, so you talked about being in ministry,
Mm-hmm.
but you were in ministry even back in that old job in that old cubicle with your Bible on your desk.
Yeah.
You've been in ministry. So again, for anybody listening, you can be in ministry and you don't
Yeah.
have to go, quit everything, leave everything, and go work for your local church. Although if that's what God's calling you to do it, then by all means do it, because look at where Cory is today.
Mm.
But you were still serving in ministry, even in that cubicle.
Yeah. You say that, Aaron, and like a pivotal point in my life was I got to go on a mission trip through Northwest to Estonia, which is butts right up next to Russia.
Yeah.
And my first time I went, I connected with some of our missionaries over there, and I really thought, like, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna become maybe I'm gonna be a full-time missionary.
Yeah.
And I was sitting with these guys one night. We were having the discussions about this, like, what would it look like? And man, they challenged me. Interesting enough, full circle, was playing softball 6 nights a week back then,
Jeez.
and playing even through the winter indoor leagues. And I remember these guys in Estonia looked at me in the most loving, challenging way, said, Cory, how many people know about Jesus because of you on your softball teams?
Mm,
And I was like, I couldn't name one.
yeah.
And they looked at me and they said, then why in the world would we bring you over here to do missions if you can't do that in your own backyard?
Wow.
And that blew my world.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I got some things to change. And so to your point, it was like, okay, God's got me where I am and when I am on purpose.
Hmm.
And I am, I guess, a missionary or in full-time ministry right where I'm at. Secular world, softball field, wherever, the gym, wherever it was. And that was just a moment that changed for me to look at everything differently.
I agree with you. That was something we were challenged with for many years when our kids were in all these travel sports and they're playing all these sports. And, all three of them were active in three different sports all the time. We were always on the go, but it was always the same community of people we were with. It was always the same families. And I remember Heather and I struggled to really find a time or date that we could get a small group going, and
Yeah.
every time it would come up, it was like, we're in one. We're actually in
Yeah.
three, because every one of our
Yeah.
kids is in a sport and we are around the same people every single time. And what you just said is really powerful because I had to challenge myself with that. How many people's lives have I impacted on the side of a baseball field?
Yeah.
And for good, not
Yep.
negative, and that's tough when you're watching your kid play baseball and
Sure.
he's on the mound, but I'm saying it. And I honestly, I'll sit here and say, I'm not going to say that I got it right. I don't think I did, but I always knew in the back of my mind that this is our community. We're in three small groups, and they're
Mm-hmm.
those families that are around the fence line or at the pool or in the gymnastics gym. Those are our small group. Those are our people. And we have a chance every week to invest in their lives and ask
Yeah.
about them and pray for them and go through life with them. It just doesn't look as traditional as most people would draw it up.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love it. So what's next now that you're back at Northwest?
Wow. So that,
Spoiler alert, if you can give it away. I don't even know. I don't even know what you're going to say, but
well,
just welcome to Unscripted.
yeah, I
So,
love it. I love it. Um, so what's next? I was just talking just before I got on with you. I had another buddy that popped in. Interesting enough, that came to the Lord through Bob
there
after.
you go.
So, and just talking about what is next. And so I come now back on staff, and I'm where my passion and my heart is. I'm back being pastor of Groups and Discipleship, meeting with people, investing in people. Man, that's where, man, that's what gets me excited.
Yeah. And you're great at it.
Um, Thanks, man. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love walking with folks, and so I get to focus on that. Like that's my swim lane, and I get to be great at that, and I really like that. And so I'll be focused on doing that, but and then helping the church in this transition, which is crazy to me, is when pastor retires, I'm gonna be the oldest guy on staff.
I don't mean
So
to laugh out loud. That's fantastic.
so
Seriously.
so I'm the old guy
The
now at
senior most
47.
member.
Yes, yes. So, but what I hope, I mean, I hope to really create, that we create this culture and this DNA of groups happening where you've seen it, just what a blessing it can be, and how powerful those moments can be, and where you're not walking alone through life.
Yeah.
And so that's my hope. And then again, the discipleship piece, just seeing people grow in their relationship with Jesus to be more like him, and then go grab other people and teach them to do the same. That's my hope. But then I also hope I get to play the old guy role. Like that some of these young guys, when they're like, I can be like, hey, slow down.
Yeah. Slow
It's
your roll.
okay. Or, hey, you know what? Hit the accelerator on that. It's time
Yeah.
to move,
Yeah.
So it's, and in the process, I described it this way to a friend the other day. Um, Sports analogy, right? It's like we're all on a football team, and our objective, we have an overall objective, an overall mission, to win the game, or to get the gospel of Jesus Christ out to folks. But in a football game, you get focused on drives. You have to score touchdowns, and to eventually win the game. And our drive right now, the current drive we're on, is seeing Pastor Harrell finish well. And our drive right now is to cross this finish line, or cross the end zone, come December 31st. And so it's an interesting, what do you do when somebody that's been a staple for 33 years
Yeah.
is so I think there's going to be a lot of emotions and a lot of wonderful moments, and that we don't even know are coming and are going to have to experience and walk through. And but the blessing is, in life, how many times we don't know when the last thing is.
Right.
We don't know when our last breath is going to be. I didn't know, a, you know, a week and a half ago, this was the last morning I'm driving my boys to school.
Right.
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 We, especially as parents, we never know when the last, no, I don't want to play Legos anymore, Dad.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was the last one. And so,
Yeah.
but here we are in the midst of this transition, fully aware that everyone is the last one.
Yeah.
Hey, this was the last communion that he led. This was the last staff meeting. And so we're wrestling with that, but trying to rejoice in the fact that God's allowing us to see and be aware it's the last one. So that's kind of the drive we're on right now. Like, let's score this touchdown.
Yeah.
And then, we'll do it all over again at the first of the year, getting, our goal is to see people know Jesus, grow in their relationship with him, and then go and reach and serve others in his name. That's our goal. And
I
don't want
like
to
how you guys are
complicate
doing it too. To quote Casting Crowns, if I'd only known the last time would be the last time. To your
So
point.
good.
So good. It's such a good song. It's such a heartbreaking song, though. But at the same time, it is cool how you guys are doing this, because it's not like you're bringing in an entirely new staff. There has been change in the staff. You have a new worship leader now, but I think he's probably been there about a year at least.
Yep.
So he's got his traction. He's got his footing now. You've got your, new pastor that's going to be taking over. He's had a chance to incorporate. People know who he is now. They know his story. They know you, obviously, being the senior most member of the staff. But that's important. It's really important in a transition like this. This is a seismic shift when you have a transition like this. And so in any, whether it's church or business, anytime you have that person, that changes, there's a lot happening, and people need stability. Most they just need to know, are we going to be okay? Especially those that have been there for so long that every Sunday saw Pastor Harrell up there. I love how he's transitioning out, as hard as it is. I love how he's doing it with this series that he's in. Can you talk about how impactful the series has been? Because I've been streaming it myself. how impactful that is and how just what that means to you.
Yeah, it is. It's impactful because you take somebody who's been one place 33 years. And again, you go look at the statistics for a lead pastor, senior pastor. I think you got a better shot of being, running backs in the NFL have a
That's
more
right.
longevity. Um, but you're taking somebody who's been one place almost 33 years, 4 decades of pastoral experience, and he's kind of saying, "Hey, here are the last 6 messages I want to leave you with." And
Mm-hmm.
there's weight to that.
Yeah.
There's heaviness to that. And I think for those sitting in the room or listening, um, you listen differently. You
Yeah.
don't take it for granted.
Right. You lean in a little
Um,
closer.
yeah, you pay attention. And so, and he's done it well. And he's very few finish well.
Mm-hmm.
It's the hardest thing to do, is
Yeah.
to finish well. And to know that that transition is happening and taking place and it's healthy and it's a good thing. You're just paying attention and you're soaking it in. Like I said, you're leaning in like you normally wouldn't on a Sunday. You probably should every Sunday, but the reality is it's just different.
Yeah.
And for, personally for me, seeing him up there each week
Mm-hmm.
is, you can't help but go, there's 4 more left.
Wow. Yeah.
There's 3 more left.
Right.
And you try not to get emotional about it.
Yeah.
And you don't want to go make him emotional about it because he's like, I'm still going to do my thing,
He's locked in.
and
Yeah. He's locked
yes,
in.
he's locked in. And so, but it's also been, you take notes yourself
Mm-hmm.
of, hey, this is what it looks like to finish things well, and we all have to finish things well. It doesn't
Right.
have to be, you got to finish, if you're out there and you're putting your 2 weeks in to go to your next job, finish your 2 weeks well, right?
Yeah.
Finish your time with your kids well, all of it.
Yeah.
Finish your workout well today, so all of it. So maybe I'll finish it well, maybe with a blizzard or something.
Finish that Diet Coke well.
So
But in all seriousness, to your point, Heather and I were up in Put-in Bay. Gosh, I think it was like September, and we were having lunch. And I looked out, and there was this guy on this park bench. He's just an older guy, and he's sitting there. And I told Heather, I want to go interview that guy. Like, I really did. If I'd have had this stuff, I probably would have just gone, "Hey, man, I'm gonna," on the spot. But what I meant was, I want his wisdom. I want to know, good, bad, or otherwise, what this guy's been through his life. I really wanted to just, and maybe not that guy, whoever it may be, just to sit at their feet for a minute, because I think we stand on their shoulders, but we should sit at their feet and listen to their wisdom of the wars they've been through, the changes they've seen in the church, good, bad, or otherwise, what they
Yep.
like, what they don't like. I think we get moving so fast, and right now our world's being influenced by TikTok, and I am an abuser of TikTok. I love it so much, but but we're being influenced by some dude in his basement, or or like some guy on a podcast that's influencing us, when we have so much wisdom and knowledge right there next to us, and we're not tapping into that. And I do believe our country would be better off if we maybe tapped into those that went before us. Not getting on a rant here, but you know what I'm saying? I think honoring.
Absolutely.
And so I love that the church is getting to get his greatest hits, his
Yeah.
greatest wisdom, in this last, I think 4 weeks left. Is that right? Or three?
Three
3
now.
weeks. 3
Yeah.
weeks left, and in a
Yeah.
season when it's Christmas. And the last thing I will say to honor him well is there's things that were always non-negotiables for him, and they've always been non-negotiables for him: his family, his respect to the military, his love of Jesus. They are pillars, and he never, ever, ever wavered. No matter what was happening, no matter what changed, those things were always something that I just respected so much. And honestly, I've tried to model as well in my life, not nearly as well as he has, but honoring our military, honoring those who have served, honoring your wife, honoring your children, and most of all, man, just loving Jesus, and, being concerned about the well-being of others, which you obviously took very much to heart,
Yeah.
literally
Yes.
to Bob Hart.
Yes.
But,
Yeah.
but you did that, man. And so I'm really glad that you're back. I know there's a lot of people really glad that you're back, and I'm just honored to call you my friend. And I'm looking forward to seeing where the Lord takes those 22 acres.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, man, happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas to you. Love on your family. Love them kids, man. They're going to be gone soon. I don't want to get you all worked up, but I'm telling you, don't blink, because we're empty nesters now. I don't know what you and Kelly are going to do when you're empty nesters, man.
I'm grateful. We've got some practice runs now when they're gone, and I'm grateful that I can look at my wife and I'm like, we're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
We love each other, but maybe even better, we like each other. So
Yeah.
it's good. It's
Yeah.
good. We're gonna have
That's
some
awesome.
fun.
It is a bittersweet season, and I'm not trying to rush
Yes.
it for you, but it is right around the corner. I'm just saying it's right around the
Yeah.
corner. So the last thing I have to say is I'm going to put this out. I'm going to put these videos out and stuff and
Mhm.
teasers. But can we both clarify? I am not Hank from Breaking Bad, and you are
Correct.
not Chris Daughtry.
100% not Chris Daughtry. Don't make me sing. I'll prove it in a bad way.
Well, and I'd be a terrible cop. So we are not those guys. But if anybody's looking for, maybe we could make a little scratch, man. We might be able to show up at parties and stuff, as Hank and Daughtry.
I know, yeah. And Daughtry, if you're out there listening, man, let's chat sometime.
Let's go, man. Yeah, seriously, would love to interview Daughtry. But man, you're the best, Cory. Thanks for always loving me, accepting me, just like everybody else that you've done that in your life. And because of that, there's people that are going to spend eternity with Jesus. And now you're doing it on a platform at a local church, but you were doing it before that. And I appreciate you, man.
Thanks, brother. I love you guys, man. Appreciate you too.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.